Hi guys, welcome to this latest video. This is a really special one. Together with me is someone I have admired for, I don't know, like since the prehistoric times of EUC. And with me is Brian Madden. He is the EUC legend working at VMware in the office of the CTO. Welcome, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Johan, and hello everyone. Thank you for watching. This is my first Lightboard video. That's what this is called, right?
Yeah, it's a Lightboard video.
I've seen these work. I've seen these. I thought they were cool. I've never actually done one before. So that's awesome. And it's funny, I've been working in VDI or whatever since prehistoric times. Like, it's a generation thing. Because, I took a few years off and in 2016, and I never heard of you before that. I go in the van for a couple of years, come back, and you got like a book, and you got blogs, and like, Johan, you're making these, like that car racing thing over VDI, and you're everywhere. Yeah. So I'm a fan of yours now, as like the next generation of VDI, legends to take over from what I did 20 years ago. So
cool.
It's exciting
I'm honored,
for me too.
Yeah. Cool. So Brian, well, what would you like to explain to us today?
Yeah. So what I want to do is a big part of my job at VMware is meeting with customers. I've met with like 140 something customers so far in the past 10 months. We are recording this in end of January 2019. So I've been at VMware 10 months, met with so many customers. A lot of my time I explain our vision on the whiteboard in the customer's offices, but I've never actually put that on video anywhere.
Right.
So I thought it'd be really cool if I just, like if I'm walking and explaining what VMware is doing in the EUC space and like how I got there, I thought it'd be cool if I just whiteboard that and explain it to the, whoever wants to watch this.
Yeah.
And to you too. So,
yeah.
Let's begin. So I'm like an engineer by background, like an SE from background. So I tend to explain things from the bottom up, like based on our history. So I actually began work 24 years ago. 24 years ago on the help desk, actually, and then doing desktop support and all these kinds of things. So I sort of approach it from that standpoint. So here goes. So I want to look at like what IT departments are dealing with today when it comes to end user computing. And so we've got, like I'll put RDSH kind of first down here, and then VDI as like these are both, when you just look at what we're doing, hey, remote Windows, single applications, published desktops, whatever. And most of the world today is doing this with Citrix, Zen App, Zen Desktop, or I guess Citrix virtual apps, virtual desktops.
Yeah.
Or they're using VMware, Horizon, or there could be some third-party products, like Microsoft, Parallels, whatever.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
So that's kind of how this is being handled. Okay. So I love VDI, I love RDSH. It's only a tiny fraction, though, of the overall EUC landscape. Windows Physical is another platform, obviously, that we're targeting. A lot of people talk about modern management and how it's taking over the old management, which was SCCM. And I like to tell people, though, SCCM is only one leg of a three-legged stool. Like, you don't manage physical Windows with just SCCM. It's also Active Directory, which kind of involves domain joins as well. And it's GPOs. I mean, GPOs are as much managing my physical environment as SCCM and Active Directory is. So that's Windows. I've got Mac. I'm going to make my lines. I can tell already they're not going to be straight, but I guess that's okay.
It's a board.
Yeah. Mac is, most companies are either not managing Mac or they're using something like Jamf.
Yeah.
I think Jamf has been around a long time and people know most about managing Macs. So that we see out there in the world. We've got iOS. I need to bring this back down. We'll start a new row. iOS and Android, which goes without saying. This is being managed historically via like what was AirWatch or Mobile Iron or Citrix Zen Mobile. Is it still called Zen Mobile? Citrix Mobile I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't even know if it's a product anymore really, but or like Intune or SODI or Maz3. There's so many products that manage. Good. Exactly. BlackBerry. So those are being managed by that. We've got Chrome in these environments also. And Chrome is being managed by a Google Chrome Enterprise Admin, I think it's called.
Might be right, yeah.
Which, by the way, if I got to take a little quick side note on Chrome, I was surprised, 140 whatever customers I met with so far. So I've got to and this is all over the world. I'm surprised how much I'm seeing Chrome in the enterprise.
Right.
I don't know if this is anything you're seeing in your world at all.
It depends on the industry, but we do see, for instance, commercial companies, especially sales employees working at those companies, they do tend to like stuff like a Chromebook or some kind of other like a light notebook kind of device. But this, we do see Chromebooks, but not from a healthcare perspective.
It's interesting because I mean, I took that 2-year break in the industry. Before that, there was no Chrome. I mean, Chrome was for education and third world countries. It was not something you saw out in the wild. And the devices were cheap and plastic and ugly. When I'm talking about Chrome for enterprise, I mean something like a Google Pixelbook or one of these like $1,000, €1,000 nice pieces of hardware. But Chrome is nice. It's stateless. It's got a deep application catalog. With all the Android apps. It's a laptop form factor, which a lot of people try and take iPads and make them into a laptop, a stateless laptop.
Not the same thing.
But it's like magnet and kickstands and all this thing. And Chrome has a real desktop browser also, which is huge because everyone who I know who tries iOS laptop replacement, there's still a lot of websites you visit and it's like a little error. Please visit from a desktop browser for full functionality.
Plus, like stuff like battery life is so from a mobility perspective, that's great as well because take an expensive Chromebook. A Chromebook could easily take like 15 hours without charging it.
I have my Mac, which I use on a regular basis, is when I'm home is in my desk, like on the dock with the big screen. But the couch laptop and like the toilet laptop is a Chromebook. That's one that follows me around. That's in the kitchen and the couch and other places I might do computing.
I like that, the toilet laptop.
So Chrome. I think we have to talk about Chrome in this context. And then I kind of think we have to look at web / SaaS / cloud applications, and we don't have to explain. People get this, but these are managed with like an Okta or Ping or nothing. A lot of people just
ADFS.
Yeah. And so we could put some other platforms. There's different rugged and things like that, but roughly speaking, this is kind of landscape today.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I have a blog post that I need to finish, kind of like my year in review. Of the 140 whatever customers I met, I feel like they're all pretty much the same, and which is funny because you're supposed to talk about customer like, no, you're very special and we understand your. I don't know, man. If you got more than a couple thousand users anywhere in the world, you're dealing with the same stuff. You've got some Citrix or VMware. It's sort of silo doing some VDI and RDSH. Your Windows, you're halfway through your Windows 7 to your Windows 10 migration, which is great, and you hear about, there's this modern management thing, but you're like, I can't deal, I have to get to Windows 10 first, the old way with imaging and SCCM domains and group policy, because I got to get off Windows 7. Yeah. Then, hey, talk to me on January 15th about modern management, Mac, people are in denial about, everyone's got some kind of mobile management, maybe no Chrome. This is some version of this everywhere.
Like point solution galore.
And that's the problem, it's point solution galore. So all these products are different products from different vendors with different capabilities and different features, different teams in the back end that manage them. So now you run into scenarios like a user's like, I want to use Mac. And it's like, well, we use SCCM and Active Directory to manage our Windows machines. And we use VDI for remote users. You want a Mac, like, I don't know if that's compliant, really. Can you? No. Okay, I guess you can use it if just use VDI on the Mac. Which, like, if I want to use a Mac, I didn't pick a Mac because I want to use VDI on the Mac. I want to use it, for it being a Mac. So I think there's a lot of inefficiencies in having these all being from separate vendors.
Yeah.
So the idea is, hey, what if we just took all this and combined it into a single solution from a single vendor? That's what that unified endpoint management. This is Gartner's word, right?
Yeah.
Like not ours.
No, so that's big UEM, not little UEM.
Yeah, I think little UEM has to change their name.
Yeah.
That what was Medio? That's now the user environment manager.
Yeah.
Hey, people are like, we were here first. I'm like, okay, well, Gartner took it, so get a new name.
You want my honest opinion?
Always.
I think this wasn't a coincidence. So UEM, little UEM, does like manages not specifically, well, it could manage endpoints, but it also manages virtual desktops. What if we could merge these bits and pieces into big UEM and manage both your physical as well as your virtual endpoints and desktops?
Yeah, little UEM is part of big UEM for sure. You know, within the world of VMware, this single product that kind of does everything is VMware Workspace ONE. So it's kind of like, oh, hey, instead of all these separate products, just have one for everything. Wouldn't that be better? One license, one everything. And I'm like, yeah, that would be better. But I don't know. Honestly, when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that seems like bullshit. Because, I mean, come on, dude. We've seen this from, like, vendors have been promising one platform for everything for a long time, right? I mean, like, think about even going back to Citrix like 15 years ago, from 2003, which, by the way, I'm not picking on Citrix. Like, VMware didn't exist in end-user computing in 2003. But I just think back to my earliest days of when one platform, like Citrix came out 2003, was the Citrix Access Suite. And it's like any, it's one platform, it's universal. But think about the Citrix Access Suite of 2003. It wasn't really anything. Like, yeah, you could use Windows physical laptop as a client, but it would have like your ICA client software on there, you know, your SSL VPN, well, maybe not in those days yet, but you know, you'd have like your password management tool, your web portal, but it wasn't replacing, you know, like SCCM, Active Directory, group policy.
You still needed those bits and pieces as well to make it work.
It was about, it was really about managing Windows applications, delivering those everywhere. But you know, then VMware had like the VMware Horizon Access Suite, I think they called it. I don't know, 5-6 years ago, same thing. Like, it wasn't managing Macs and managing Windows. Like, so if it's going to be one thing that does everything, I mean, you got to be able to actually like replace everything that we're doing. And so, you know, and all this, VMware announced Workspace ONE back in 2016 before I took my little van ride. But most of the work that they did here and rolling it out was while I was living in a van and not paying attention to IT at all. So earlier last year, like about a year ago, when I started looking around and figuring out what I wanted to do next, and you know, I started talking to Sean Bass, who's our CTO for end user computing at VMware. I talked to other people, other companies, and you know, he said, no, it's one for everything, one for everything. I'm like, that sounds like bullshit. It's like, I don't know. It's like, no, really. So if I look at how I think of VMware and how VMware has historically been around and thinking like, wait, does VMware really do this kind of stuff? I always thought about it like this, like, okay, let's just start, you know, does VMware do RDSH and VDI? Yes and yes. It's VMware Horizon today. The purpose of that is not to say whether it's better than Citrix or worse. The point is Horizon has lots of customers, single environments with more than 100,000 users, like millions of users around the world are using Horizon. It's a legit product that exists and people are using it works. Like, yes, I believe that VMware can deliver RDSH and VDI. Same with, you know, VMware bought AirWatch 5 years ago now. So does VMware have the ability to manage, you know, iOS, Android, and Chrome via, again, what was historically AirWatch? Yes, of course. AirWatch is probably the most popular one. I see AirWatch and Mobile Iron, Intune a little bit in like smaller businesses and like simple use cases. But yeah, like, yes, I believe VMware can do that. Same with the web, SaaS, cloud side of things. You know, VMware has a product called Identity Manager. We call it like VIDM. That came from AirWatch before the acquisition. It's in version 3 something now. Been around a long time. And it's doing the app catalog and the SAML, you know, brokering and Kerberos ticket gateways and your conditional access. And like, again, it's product. There's many products in the world that do this kind of stuff, but like, yes, I believe VMware is capable of doing that. So you take a look at this, and it's like, yeah, the things that I put check marks on, I believe that VMware can do those things. It's before I joined VMware, I'm like, this physical Windows, this physical Mac, like, really, VMware? Like, you're doing that? I mean, SCCM came out in 1994.
Yeah.
Active Directory came out in the late 90s, in 1999. So this is, SCCM is 25 years old. Active Directory and GPOs are 20 years old. Can you believe that? DC promo, we were doing that for 20 years? What? What were you doing 20 years ago?
Exactly 20 years ago, I started my first IT job.
Oh, well, fantastic.
Working on WinFrame.
Wow.
Buying your book in that year.
Oh, really? So I started with WinFrame in 97. You started in 99. You've been around longer than I thought. I guess there's some grays in your beard. It's not all the fiery orange.
No, this isn't gray. This isn't colored either.
But I'm like, there's a lot of check marks on the screen of what VMware can do. But it's like, that Windows physical, come on, dude, that's like 90%. When we're talking about EUC and enterprise, it's still like 90% about Windows desktops and laptops.
Yeah.
Like if you can't do that. So I'm like, to Sean, and I'm like, come on, dude, really? You're doing Windows physical? And it's like, come on, SCCM, Active Directory Group Policy, they've been around for, 20 years. Come on. He's like, no, we are doing it. I'm like, how? They're like, well, we can use modern management. I'm like, oh, yeah. All right, I'm out.
Right, so
fuck off.
Buzzword.
Yeah, I'm
buzzword
like,
alert.
Oh, Jesus. Because I wrote so much about modern management. And have you ever done a Lightboard video like this on modern management before?
Yeah, we did two of them on modern management in combination with Workspace ONE.
Okay, because I think it's worth. Modern management is really interesting. I think a lot of people don't really understand it, and modern management came about, frankly, because like iOS and Android were so easy to manage compared to managing Windows, that the world went to Microsoft and was like, you've got to give us a better way, please.
There's got to be a better way.
We're dying here. But iOS and Android were better because they're newer. They were designed more, because, domains go back to 93. Active Directory is 99, SCCM was 94. Back then, a computer was a box on our desk.
Yeah.
It was a physical box. There was no concept of mobility.
Physical location.
If you did have mobility, you were actually dialing into your own company's modem servers. There was no VPNs, and the nice thing about a box being on a desk, it had a physical wire connected to it. We could wake on LAN to wake it up and install software at night. If we broke it, we could walk down there and get it and fix it. The user was only working 40 hours a week, which gave us as IT 128 hours to do whatever we needed to do.
Yeah.
And then, technology, the world moved on, and we had portable computers, then mobile then laptops, then we were connecting with VPNs, then the internet, and then antivirus, and then all this stuff. And I kind of feel like it's like that old expression about boiling a frog. If you increase the water slowly, the frog never notices and then dies, which that can't be real, right? But anyway, we're the frog. Because the way that we manage physical Windows machines with SCCM and domain joins and Active Directory and GPOs is built for the era when a computer was a box on a desk and never left the office. So even though the technology evolved over all these years, this technology never changed. And the reason it didn't, I don't blame Microsoft for this, it's because, remember, when Windows first came out, when Windows NT came out, which is what Windows 10 is based on, they were fighting OS2.
Yeah.
And Microsoft had to make Windows as attractive platform as they could, which is basically become very promiscuous and people like you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can do whatever you want, man. Come to us. You can have admin rights. You can install drivers. You can install your own Gina. You can install DLLs. You can, whatever you want. Services. Yeah, we don't care. Private APIs, public APIs, whatever you want. And they only needed that, and it worked. Windows became very popular.
Yeah. And
even within 5 years, it's okay, this is getting a little crazy, massive security holes, but you can't sort of put that smoke back in the bottle once you let it out. And so it's just well, now we're trying to say, Microsoft added all these more recent, over the past 20 years, features to Windows to make it more secure. But there's always, you had to have exceptions because this application is old and uses the old way of doing things, the old whatever. And so, yada, yada, yada. We're here in 2019. And it's we still manage it with domain joins and policies and SCCM because that's the way the applications work and the way that Windows works and everything. So,
and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, and it has to, because if you change something, look, Microsoft tried this with Windows 10 S.
Yeah.
Windows 10 S? What the S stands for?
No. Slim?
Shitty? No, stateless.
Stateless.
It's Windows 10 stateless. You want to lock down Windows. How do you make it not get janky and do all this over time? Well, don't let anyone install classic Windows applications, and don't let them touch the registry. Congratulations, Windows 10s only runs Universal Windows Platform apps and Office, and it can't touch a registry. Well, I mean, respectfully, if it's Windows, but I can't install like my regular Windows applications and I can't touch the registry, like what good is it? Like why am I using Windows? So Windows 10s, like that's going nowhere.
No.
So, and again, because we can't, the world needs Windows applications, and they work the way they work. I mean, even there's a reason Office is not a universal Windows platform application. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
The only Microsoft apps that are universal Windows apps are like
the tiny ones, like
like Skype,
yeah,
remote desktop client, these things. I think OneNote is maybe now. It's a little Angry Birds, whatever. But the point is, but still the world went to Microsoft and was like, dude. Because think about this, with the Windows laptop, like, in order to get a new GPO, I have to log into the domain.
Yeah.
So I'm here in, I don't want to, I'll say Netherlands. I was in Amsterdam. We drove a long ways from there to get here. We're like by the sea.
Yeah, Wijk aan Zee.
Yeah, the neighborhood on the sea.
Yeah.
So if I come here, like, let's say I land in Amsterdam, open up my Windows laptop, I can log into Outlook, I can log into, like, do my work, I'm synchronizing OneDrive. But if I don't actually make a VPN connection to log back into the domain, I don't get my updated GPOs. Even though there's like different security and like regulatory environment in Europe versus US, and maybe I've got different.
Yeah, right. So your context has changed as a user.
And if I don't log into the actual VPN and domain, I don't get those updates. Versus on my iPhone, the second those rubber airplane wheels hit the ground, I'm out of airplane mode, and it's like it hits the web and boom, it's updated.
Yeah.
So we're like, dude, Microsoft, come on. And they're like, we can't, because look, we tried Windows 10, but Windows 10s, I mean, So Microsoft says, fine. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you the new way to manage Windows, but we can't break the old way.
Right.
And we can't really make them intermingle. So we're going to have separate stovepipe environments. We're going to have like the old brownfield, this way of doing things, parallel side by side.
Prehistoric
to the new modern way.
Right.
And the modern way is going to have no more SCCM, no more domain joins, modern provisioning, no more no more sysprep, no more imaging, like all that stuff goes away, and it's managed in the completely awesome modern way. And a lot of people are like, that sounds cool, call me when it's ready. Because there's that Microsoft rule of threes, right? Like you can't use any Microsoft product till it eventually hits version 3, and then it's actually usable. Yeah. And the good news here, though, is modern management actually came out in Windows RT back in 2012. And around the same time, Windows 8 came out. Now, no one knows that, because who used Windows RT and Windows 8? 0 people.
Same users as Vista and ME, I guess.
Yeah, so like, exactly. So V1 of modern management was actually, back in 2012, no one knew it. V2 was in Windows 8.1, which is essentially Windows 9, but they couldn't call it Windows 9 because of Windows 95 and too many scripts looked for is version 9x 9. So that's literally the reason why they had to skip it.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Too many, even internal with Microsoft, too many scripts. Like if version starts with 9 star, then it's Windows 95, and so we can't have so Windows 8.1 had version 2 of modern management. So Windows 10 has version 3 of modern management. So Windows 10's modern management is actually getting to be somewhat usable.
Yeah, it's pretty mature.
And so, but yet, when Sean Bass and VMware crew tell me that they're using modern management for Windows 10, notice I'm like, no thanks, I'm out, this is garbage. Because modern management, even though it is getting more usable today, there's still some very significant limitations. The modern management APIs from Microsoft, as they sit today, for example, you can deploy Windows Universal Platform applications. You can deploy MSIs, but that's it.
Yeah.
Well, how many apps are not MSI? Like a lot of them. Setup 32.
Yeah.
There's scripts. All that sort. So I can't deploy those kind of apps. Another big limitation with the out-of-the-box API from Microsoft is you can only Microsoft makes certain configuration settings available via this API There's a lot. There's like 1,400 settings that are made available via the
Wow.
API. But what we're doing with group policy, like group policy fundamentally is setting registry key values.
Yeah.
How many registry keys are there?
A gazillion.
Like, yeah, how many raindrops are there? I mean,
Yeah,
a lot. And I can't go into a company and say, hey, you can't touch the registry now.
Right.
So, and I wrote about this for like article after article after article on brianmadden.com over the years, which, by the way, don't work there anymore because I work at VMware.
No, he's Brian Madden, the person.
The person, yeah.
Yeah.
The Brian Madden website actually got changed to Brian Madden, or the Twitter is like
Twitter.
Brian Madden, the website, to separate it from me. But it's, the thing is, for modern management, you know, I always wrote that it's not ready until you can deploy any application type, any registry key. And by the way, this is exactly why Microsoft talks about co-management.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft, you know, they're not pushing Intune as a replacement to SCCM AD group policy. They're pushing Intune as an augmentation to run side by side for some period of time, pretty much until modern management has enough features that you can finally shut off SCCM.
Right.
And by the way, that day is coming.
Yeah.
Like SCCM is dead. Now, Brad Anderson does not admit that. Microsoft does not admit that. Here, I can prove it to you. That
You heard it here first.
I mean, probably other people have said that, right?
Yeah.
But like, think about it. Mary Jo Foley at ZDNet did a great article in October. Credit to Jack Madden, my brother, for pointing this out to me. That looked at Microsoft executives and how their compensation is put together. 2/3 of their compensation is tied to Azure, both in Azure users and Azure subscription revenue. So 2/3 of Microsoft exec comp based on Azure. Microsoft is all in on Azure, which is why you see Active Directory move to Azure, Exchange move to Azure, Office move to Azure, SharePoint move to Azure, everything, SQL move to Azure. You know, all these things are moved to Azure. Quick, where's SCCM? What's the SCCM Azure solution today?
It's probably Azure Stack and connected towards something on-prem because you're not able to take that to the cloud.
Yeah, there is no SCCM
Right.
in Azure. I mean, Microsoft Solutions says, no, you can build some VMs
Yeah.
and then install SCCM, you know, setup.exe on Azure. You can buy ExpressRoute, which is basically like a fire hose to connect your on-prem solution into their cloud.
Yeah.
There's no SCCM in Azure. If it's 2019, man. If SCCM was meant, if there was going to be a cloud version of SCCM, it would be here by now.
Yeah.
Instead, Microsoft is spending all their effort focused on Intune. By the way, as it applies to clients, I think SCCM will be around for a long time for servers and server management, especially as Microsoft moves to remove the GUI from server.
Yeah.
But SCCM, in terms of you know, like client-based management, it's gone. Same with domain joins. Remember, when Azure Active Directory first came out, there was no Active Directory domain join. And the world was like, Microsoft Rule of Threes, you know, like, Active Directory doesn't have domain joins. Oh, how cute. Call me when it's ready.
Yeah.
And Microsoft's like, no, really, it's ready now. And the world's like, call me when it's ready, it's fine. I'm like, no, seriously, you can use it now. You don't need to do domain join because of modern management. And the world's like, for real, just call me when you have domain joins. And Microsoft's like, fine, we'll add domain joins even though you don't need it anymore, you know. And there's some applications that look for like NTLM authentication and still needs to emulate that kind of stuff. But you know, the Active Directory is really interesting if you think about it. Even the on-prem Active Directory, it's kind of doing two separate roles at the same time. It's a directory, like a listing of users and passwords and properties and devices, and it's how you manage things. Like your GPOs live in there.
Yeah.
Like, you ever think about how crazy that is? Like, one product that does both like user directory and like management structure. Like, what a weird combination that people did not. It's like pineapple on pizza. Like, why? So
I love that combination, by the way.
Yeah, the Dutch. You drink sour milk, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think the world was sort of like, it was weird. And Microsoft's trying to separate the two with Azure Active Directory. Now, they have kind of relented, and you can register machines with the Active Directory, with Azure Active Directory. You can actually add them into Azure Active Directory domain now. But I think they really did because the world was not ready for where Microsoft was going with that. Anyway, all these reasons, when someone's like, oh, no, we can do modern management today, like that's how a product like VMware Workspace ONE is able to manage physical machines with modern management. Remember, I'm like, no, because we can't do all our application types and have all these, can't do registries and that kind of stuff. Call me when it's ready, kind of. And Sean, I said to Sean, he looks at me, he's like,
Have you
what?
been living in a bus for like 1.5 years?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
are you insane? I'm like, what? He's like, why are you basing what products exist in the world based on what Microsoft capabilities are? Like, for 20 years, the enterprise understood the model. Microsoft makes the baseline functionality. RDSH, Microsoft product. VDI, like the core of RDSH multi-session comes from Microsoft. No one in the enterprise uses that by itself.
No.
You all add VMware or Citrix onto it to make it like enterprise ready. That's the model that Microsoft has established across the world. Like, they make the baseline, third parties add on top and make it enterprise ready. Why do you think that doesn't apply here as well? And he goes, look, I mean, modern management came out back in 2012. No one knew it because it was Windows RT and Windows 8, which no one used, but we knew it. We, VMware, not me, this is before I was there, but like, the engineers who were doing it was AirWatch at the time were working on it and building a Windows, modern management client. And we've had 7 years to add all these functionalities that we need, like, as I said, the ability to push out any registry key and set any registry setting. The ability to push down any software application and install any software application, not just MSIs and UWPs, but set up 32, set up the exe, install Shield, batch files, zip file, PowerShell,
Macros,
whatever. Yeah. Like, that's all there. And so, that's the role that all these third parties provide, is they take the baseline functionality from like the core vendor and extend it. And I'm like, that makes sense. I feel a little embarrassed now. Sorry. And so, yeah. So we are able to manage Windows physical devices out in the world, all with the modern management stack. And we are actually able to replace SCCM and Active Directory and policy and sysprep and imaging and all that sort of thing. By the way, in the Mac, I won't spend the time telling the story, but there's a similar story on Mac. Mac OS actually added this new modern interface like 5 years ago. Actually, it's the same interface that iOS management uses. It's like very clean, modern, works great, and Apple's like, oh, that's cool, we'll just add this to Mac. Now, there was an old way of doing things too in Mac, and they ran side by side for like 1 year. And then Apple just shut off the old way of doing things, because like, they're Apple. What are you gonna do? Enjoy your plastic Windows machine? Ha 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 ha. Now, obviously, when you have 5% market share, you're able to make some more bold moves. But so Mac switched over a couple years ago to like only being managed via this new interface. So it's actually pretty easy for us to extend what we were doing in iOS over to Mac. And then we partner with some open source projects like Monkey, which it can be used for packaging, making DMG files, PKG, setting parameters, enrollment, all that kind of stuff. So we have a modern management story for physical Mac and for physical Windows. As a quick side note here, we absolutely can replace SCCM, Active Directory, GPOs, all that stuff today on physical Windows. Most customers aren't going to make that move all at once. So typically what we'll do is we'll drop the Workspace ONE agent. Actually, you could even use SCCM to deploy it on a Windows physical machine side by side, because Microsoft does support that co-management.
Right.
That's what they do themselves. Half Intune, half SCCM, domains, Active Directory, GPOs. That's exactly what we can do also. So drop the Workspace ONE agent alongside of sort of the old way. We actually have a product called Airlift. It's a VM that you install and put it right next to your SCCM server, and it connects back and forth, and it sucks over like your packages. Well, not automatically. Like it's sort of like a bridge layer in between, and then you can choose when you're ready to import packages. It'll validate them, move like your groups over into collections, and kind of synchronize the two environments as you're preparing. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's a temporary migration tool. I'm like, I don't know, man. Run it for years. It's fine. Like there's not a hurry necessarily, but let's start getting the real value out of the modern management today, and then let your old environment, do what it needs to do. By the way, some people, when I say that SCCM and these things are going away. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm out of a job. I'm like, you'll be fine. Because, yes, there's some things in a modern environment that you don't have to do. You don't have to run these weekly, monthly, quarterly, SCCM, SQL optimization scripts and log file cleanout. You don't have to monitor and care and feeding of all your SCCM servers, but there's still plenty of work to do. It's just like when all servers move to the cloud, okay, I don't spend all night in data centers unpacking and racking and stacking boxes and cabling servers anymore, but like there's still plenty for a Windows admin to do.
Yeah, your focus will shift.
Yeah, like application, it's like who's packaging your applications? Are they AppV? Are they ThinApp? Are they App Volumes? Are they MSIX? Are they Flexera? How do they run? Are they being deployed locally on the cloud, on a VDI? All that, their profiles, all that stuff still exists. So like Windows is still Windows. There's plenty of work to be done. But the point is, you kind of look at this and stand back. I'm like, oh man, if this is one product that is doing all that, it's one platform. That's actually pretty solid. And for me, before I joined VMware, and I'm going through this with them, I look at this and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm on board. I mean, yes, this is exactly what we want. This is how it should be.
Yeah.
Like, sign me up. Like, give me a job. Let me go talk about this to the world. Like, I'm in. And they're like, dude, like, we haven't showed you the good stuff yet. This is just our baseline. And I'm like, I'm listening. And when I talk about kind of where, like I said, all this is existing. This is all shipping product. This has existed for probably a year and a half now at this point, even longer. Like all this as like real shipping product with actual paying customers. But what's interesting is, when you have all these various client platforms, all these various devices, application types, historically, these are all sort of siloed, including how they're capturing information. Like, you got logs on domain controllers, you got logs in SCCM, you've got a SQL database, you got reports in SCCM, Citrix has its own logs and its reports, and you're running reports against, just your Citrix environment. Jamf is keeping track of Mac, Airwatch has all its iOS and Android, but it's all separate siloed information. So it's like, oh, how compliant are we on this? Or, it's all these separate buckets of information. Well, if we have one platform, like Workspace ONE, that is collecting all that, well, if we put all the information in one place,
create like a big data lake
we can do. And so so we can create part of this. I'm going to see if I can draw this without covering my face here. Intelligence. So we have Workspace ONE Intelligence. And this is our big data lake in the cloud. And every single one of these products is going to plug everything it's doing and roll up into Workspace ONE Intelligence. And this is in real time. I'm going to put air quotes because it's like IT real time, like give it a few minutes. But it's, because they're talking to their entry point, depending on if it's Windows or depending on where the entry point is. But it makes its way up here into intelligence, essentially in real time. So now I've got one spot that has, every, these devices, where they are, what they're running, versions, hotfixes, patches, whitelist, blacklist, CRT check, did it get a trusted boot, is it jailbroken? You can look online in our docs and see everything you can collect. It's a lot, and it's pretty easy to add your own things to collect to it as well. So all that is rolling up into this one data lake. If you happen to be using, by the way, Windows 10, which you're doing VMware management, if your VDI is Windows 10, put that same agent on your VDI, manage it that way. If your VDI is Citrix also, we don't care. That's fine. All that rolls up there. If it's Horizon, we can get even some more information about the Horizon environment, what host people are on. I talked about that product, this VIDM product, this identity manager. VMware calls this identity as a service. I don't like that name because it suggests like that it is an identity provider, which it can be. No one does that. No. Your identities today are in ADFS, AAD, they're in Okta, I don't know, NetScaler has, there's Oracle, they're somewhere. Probably somewhere else. To me, I look at Identity Manager as the interface between where your user identity is and your EUC platform and your Workspace ONE. So, like I said, Identity Manager, it's going to power your app catalog. It's going to power your conditional access. It's going to broker, act like a CASB to your broker into your web applications and launching those. So, but Identity Manager knows every sort of user session, where they're logged on, how they authenticated, did they two-factor, did they multi-factor, did they, Identity Manager knows all of that, and that's rolling up into this intelligence cloud as well. Another aspect that's kind of throughout all this is VMware bought a company a while ago called Apptelligent, and this is application performance analytics. And so application starts, stops, crashes, loads, versions running, how long each screen is open for, how long the application is open for, all sorts of different sort of application performance type things. And kind of like what Microsoft Workspace Analytics is doing for Office 365 apps, but this is for all apps, not just Office apps. So it's rolling everything it's doing up into this intelligence cloud as well. So we have this intelligence cloud. And by the way, this intelligence cloud is a cloud native service. So everything down here, you can do on-prem or as a service, SaaS-based.
Yeah.
So Workspace ONE can be on-prem. Identity Manager can be on-prem, your Horizon can be on-prem, all that can be on-prem. You can do everything here in the cloud if you want. This is cloud only because it's in AWS, it uses 50 different native AWS capabilities and has all these giant, MapReduce and these big scientific processing and analytics and all that stuff. And it's not like you can just save this OVA and here you go. Maybe in the future this comes on-prem with some kind of AWS Outposts or something like that, but who knows? I'm not telling you roadmap. I'm saying my own independent analysts is they could probably do it in the future at some point, but everything's going sort of cloud-based. Anyway, so when you have intelligence, this gives you all the things you would expect. There's a dashboard, there's widgets, there's reports, there's an automation engine, there's if this then that, action engine. Yeah. So which you can trigger. You can set triggers. I mean, I can trigger when a user unenrolls themselves. If it's a BYO environment that they self-enroll, they could self-unenroll, and that could trigger this action. Okay, now remove these applications or run this script. It takes whatever. So all that gets rolled up into intelligence.
Yeah, we saw great demos of I don't know, an admin being able to check out what the battery life is of a laptop or all laptops of his users, and proactively create ServiceNow tickets to replace the batteries and stuff like that. So in terms of user experience, this is a big value.
Yeah, and it's great for admins too because you've got everything across your entire estate in one place. So it's not okay, I have to go here to find out what's vulnerable in iOS, and here's an Android, and here's Google, and it's all in place. That's all fine. To me, the real value though is there's a set of APIs. I'll write this backwards. APIs / there's an SDK, and that's where things get really, really interesting because VMware. Let me back up. This is not the same company it was 5 years ago. Exhibit A. Brian at VMware.com. I would not have an at VMware.com at that company. I would not be an employee of VMware 5 years ago. Yeah. That goes two ways. I wouldn't work there because I feel like they're so arrogant and there's a hard company to deal with. And they wouldn't have employed me because I wrote the VDA Delusion. Yeah. The book might as well have been called the VMware Delusion, And look now, think about VMware of 5 years ago. These are the people who brought us vCloud Air. The dumbest, vCloud Air, remember this is when VMware, you can't even say it with a straight face, they thought they were going to make their own cloud to compete against AWS and Amazon. Yeah. What? They actually stood on a stage at VMworld being I think we know more about the enterprise cloud than a bookseller. Yeah, you don't. Thankfully, they got rid of that. And I'm not saying that there's no value in third-party clouds who aren't AWS and Azure. There's lots of value. But it shouldn't be you have to use that if you want to use VMware products, right? Yeah. So now VMware, for example, we've got Horizon on Azure. Literally, I was at Citrix Synergy last year. As a VMware employee, we were a sponsor and everything because most Citrix environments run on VMware. And so we, they were making fun of us, our friends down south, have platform lock-in. I'm we run on Azure. Horizon runs natively on Azure. This is not This is not like, I mean, this natively on the Azure hypervisor, Horizon runs on that. You
Yeah.
can run Horizon, you can run vSphere in AWS.
Yeah. You can actually run Zen Desktop or Zen
Virtual
Citrix
desktops.
virtual
Yeah.
desktops on vSphere, on AWS.
Yeah, with PVS and everything
With
working.
PVS and
yeah,
everything
machine,
working.
NCS,
Yeah,
all that stuff, yeah. It's crazy. It's a very, very open company now. And our approach, by the way, is Workspace ONE is a platform.
Yeah.
It's extendable, it's pluggable, it's extensible. We will focus on what we do best, and we're going to let third parties focus on what they do best. This is why I don't get bent out of shape if someone uses Citrix. If someone has Citrix, virtual apps, virtual desktops, and they like it, keep it. Fine by me. Because if you look at the whole story we're building here, the RDSation VDI, as we discussed in like the whole is 2019 the year of VDI thing, it's very important. It's like 5% of the piece. If this is Citrix, that's fine, because maybe this over here is Azure. We were on stage at Octane, which is Okta's main conference, on their main keynote announcing our technical integration. Octane and VIDM compete against each other. They have some overlap, but we win all together. If a customer has Okta and they love it and it's already hooked into hundreds of applications, let's plug right into that. Let's not try to rip them out and replace them. It's the same with Citrix. We can broker connections to RDSH sessions and applications of VDI sessions from Citrix just as easily as we can with Horizon. I can drop that Windows agent in there to manage my Windows instances of VDI on Windows 10. That works as great on Citrix as it does on Horizon. As a VMware employee, like the more VMware in the world, the better, I guess, for me at the end of the day. But like our focus is the platform for end user computing and who manages all these different plugin pieces. If someone has Citrix and they love it, keep it. I'm not here to convince you otherwise, and I don't want you to not talk about this whole vision just because you love Citrix here.
Yeah.
And so that's how you couldn't imagine a VMware employee. Like if I said that 5 years ago, I'd be out of a job before this video is over. Now they're like, yeah, that's how it works. It's awesome. So it's a much, much, much more open company. And the example, remember I was talking about intelligence and these APIs and SDKs. So we are basically saying, look, we have so much data in here. Again, it's about the devices, the applications, all the user logon, the performance, all this kind of stuff inside this intelligence cloud. And we're doing some of our own analytics on it. And we bought a company called E8 Security also that does user and entity behavior analytics. So they're doing some machine learning type stuff on it. So we've got some basic stuff. But come on, if you're going to some real hardcore work, you're going to go to a third party for your security products. So one of the things, for example, that plugs in here, I think I'll draw these over here. We've got something called the Workspace ONE. Is this going to be in your way? Trust Network?
It'll work. I'll do this.
So the Workspace ONE Trust Network. Now, by the way, the Trust Network is in beta right now.
Right.
This is January, February, not 2019. We're recording this. Intelligence is real. All this stuff is real. What I'm showing you today, real shipping, etc.
Yeah.
Trust Network's in beta. With Trust Network, we go to the security vendors.
Carbon Black.
Cylance,
Yeah.
CrowdStrike, McAfee, Zscaler, Symantec, Okta, NSX. There's 20 of them. It's
Right.
half of these ones. You probably got half of them in your system tray. Most people are down here because they're all doing different things. But it's all different types of companies. It is. It's endpoint protection. It's mobile threat defense. It's cloud access security brokers, next gen firewall, user analytics. All sorts of different types of companies, which they all have agents on your machines today. And what are those agents doing really? They're probably just collecting, what's running, where in the world is this user, let's do some CRC checks and some software, let's try and figure out some behavior, let's just look at what they're doing. Now they're not doing any hardcore analysis, they're kind of collecting all this stuff, shipping it up to their cloud services, running some analytics and thinking this user now popped up in an area that has a certain type of malware, but we can block it by not allowing them to connect to a certain Wi-Fi profile, so just push down a configuration, which now they have to have an agent that can touch it and now hopefully not get blocked by your antivirus software is being as a change, and it's just a whole nightmare. It's look, you're collecting the exact same information that we're collecting. We don't need two agents collecting the same information, ours going to our cloud and yours going to your cloud. Why don't you just talk to our APIs directly? And so you could have one of these like global malware threat defense type products that has their cloud service is connected directly through our APIs into your instance of your Workspace ONE Intelligence cloud. And it can look through there and it can see, oh, here this is happening, and I identified this problem, and I'm going to go ahead and push it down and make a change. And by the way, since intelligence is part of Workspace ONE, it has that command and control capability because Workspace ONE is able to push out changes. It's all instantaneous, all that sort of thing. So we can actually allow these third-party vendors, they're doing what they do best, but right on top of the platform that we have.
Yeah.
We can extend what we're doing without us having to necessarily know what they do in a good way. Because this thing is, these APIs are two ways. This isn't just read, read, read. They can write into this. So a great example for this is like that user behavior analytics. This is that kind of like machine learning type stuff, like where they're watching you work and trying to determine, they understand your regular patterns over time, and they can decide if you start doing something shady. Like if I don't know, how much data do you think I have access to at VMware? Like terabytes, right? If you look like every SharePoint, every OneDrive, every intranet site, I never download anything, like a white paper here and there, something like that, maybe a video. If all of a sudden my account starts downloading 300 gigabytes of data per day, probably want to notify someone about that because I've been like hacked or I'm about to quit or whatever that case is.
Yeah.
So I do have a need for these kind of like analytic products. But again, historically, they have their agent, they have their cloud, they have their everything. So now I can take one of these behavior analytic products, point it at our intelligence cloud. We're the agent, we're collecting everything, and say, you know what? I want to base conditional access off of this other third-party product. I don't know what this product, like how do these third-party analytic products work? It's all like machine learning scientists that live on Mars. Like I don't know, it's like crazy. And they're like, well, we have this, and I'm like, my brain's exploding. Dude, just tell me a number. How about this? Give me a 0 to 100 scale. 100 is trustworthy, 0 is not trusting at all. And that way I can say, hey, if I got a 90 or higher, let the user write in. If it's an 80 to 89, maybe two-factor them. If it's lower than 80, shut off their account, ping their boss, whatever.
Wow.
But so I can just write this user score right into this cloud. And it's just another database parameter that's in there. And then I can base my conditional access in Identity Manager or extension via Okta or whatever, if I'm using third-party one of those. I can write all my rules because Identity Manager is threaded throughout all this, which means every time a user accesses a resource, it can be logging in, launching an app, starting a Horizon session, a website, because it's all SAML authentication. I can build my conditional access rules, and typically it might be the conditional access is, do you have a username and a password that matches that username? Perhaps it's multi-factor where I'm going to say, do you have a device that belongs to that user or a finger that belongs to that user? Now we can just say, hey, this is going back in, like I'm building conditional access by the user score has to be 90 or higher for them to get in. I don't know what that 90 means. I don't have to. My security nerd department can talk to their security nerds and figure out what the scoring is.
And they do that in near real time as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, this is a beta thing right now, right?
Yeah,
it's a for instance, because there's so many different vendors. I'm just giving you some different examples of the types of things you could do with Trust Network. But think about this. That vendor turns out to be crap, and you want a different one. Great. Take it out, put in the new one. It's plugging that score in the intelligence cloud. I just changed a couple policies right here to look at that database table as part of my conditional access instead of this one, or that property instead of that one. Off we go. I'm not ripping out all these agents, putting on new agents. You can flip as easily here and there. You can use different ones in different geos. If this sub part of your business wants this one product, you can use it and plug it in, and it's all happening in this back end. And again, like this is just scratching the surface of what you can do. And this is the power of having a platform that's universal and pluggable. And when you've got like a mindset like a VMware of we're not going to try to be the best security vendor to every single product that's out there. There's like 1,000 of them. Yeah. Let them do what they're doing. Just plug in right here. We'll give all the information they need. Now maybe intelligence and Trust Network is not just about agent removal. There might be some vendors who are doing things that do require agents because they're doing something that we don't do. Fine. They can still that agent can still plug in and end up dumping it into this intelligence cloud, so we're able to do sort of more advanced things. And you can look at all sorts of third parties, like Lakeside Software with Systrack. They were at VMware talking about how they can potentially plug into intelligence because it's a lot of, do I use this or that? It's like, no, let's use both. If you love Systrack, let's both make each other better They've been in this business for 30 years. We have this thing that touches everything across all platforms. Let's plug them together. And that's really where this power comes from.
Wow.
And there's so many little examples I can give. Like another one is called, have you heard the common vulnerabilities and exploits? It's CVE, stands for Common Vulnerabilities and Exploits. There's a great website where you can see this, cve.mitre.org. So the common vulnerabilities and exploits, or common vulnerabilities and exposures, I think it is technically, pretty much this is a database of pretty much anything that plugs in that has a vulnerability is in that database. So it's computer type devices that run Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, Linux, Chrome, Teslas, your toaster, your TV, whatever this thing is, I'm sure is on there. All these things, like they're in there, and you can see like every time you see security incidents. So like the people that manage if there's like an Apple security issue and it's like issue number 2019 the year -12345, like that number is tying back into this system. And it's an international sort of consortium. Lots of vendors are able to add to it about their specific products and vulnerabilities they find and everything. Most vulnerabilities are not publicly disclosed until a patch is available. Yeah. Not always the case, but that's usually how it happens. So you can actually subscribe to an XML data feed from this, which is like the RSS feeds for blogs. It's like an RSS feed, but it's of vulnerabilities.
Right.
Like, be ready for the fire hose if you subscribe to this, because it's like multiple day. I think they're in the 8,000s already for 2019, and it's like 4 weeks old. Yeah. And so there's a lot of these things. There's like hundreds of thousands of incidents in this, and every entry has the version of software, the platform, the version, including hot fixes that are or are not affected. Linked to the more information about it. There's a critical how severe it is. Linked to the patch if it's available. So this common vulnerabilities and exploits data feed, we consume that in Workspace ONE.
Wow.
So that's on the back end, like cloud service to cloud service. So you're not doing that necessarily yourself. But remember, Workspace ONE Intelligence tied into this open management platform. We know everything about every device that you've got in your environment, and the user and what they're logging on from and where they are and all that sort of thing. So a new exploit can come out or vulnerability. They might even be cross-platform, like one of these big ones that hits every device, kind of all at once. And we'll bubble right up on the reports in your dashboard, like you have 9,712 devices that are, that are vulnerable for this, and it's critical.
Wow.
And remember, Workspace ONE has an automation engine in it.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, if it's critical or higher, if it affects, more than 10% of my users, and if a patch is available, just build the package and start pushing it out. So now your boss wakes you up at 6 a.m. about see the news, what's going on here, and you can sort of roll over and log in and be like, oh, we're actually 40% through our deployment. And all this is built into the command and control. So you could build there's an if this then that type engine, and you can sort of cascade these together. So you can actually say if a high critical one comes out, then I'm going to push that out. I will let you still connect, but I want you to push this out, but I'll give you up to 2 hours. And then if you can't connect within 2 hours, I'm going to invalidate your account and you can't log into anything. Because you have to be careful with this auto pushing out, because I don't want to be walking on the stage at a keynote and I open my laptop 30 seconds after a vulnerability comes out and it's doing an OS patch.
Hey, you're going to whiteboard this session instead. Right.
But again, this is just
it's impressive.
And this is I can go on forever.
Yeah.
We could talk about our desire state configuration management and the configuration templates, which you can apply here and apply. There's so much stuff that I'm just giving little examples kind of here and there. But what it ties down to is the takeaway is what makes this possible is having a single platform for your entire EUC estate. But the idea is this platform is not the be all end all. This is the platform that's pluggable and extendable.
Yeah.
So again, we will focus on what we do best while letting the third parties focus on what they do best. And if you're using Okta here, you're using Citrix here, maybe you're using some Google stuff here, you're using 7 different security tools there, that's fantastic. We want to sit in the middle. We'll focus on all the dumb, boring, dirty back-end details, and then you can focus on the kind of stuff that you're doing best. A huge partner opportunity, by the way, to make best practices around the automations and the CVE integration and the configuration template integration, or even a lot of stuff that came from Apptelligent originally, looking at applications and how often they crash, and identifying automatically, oh, you should not roll out the next version of Windows because it crashes too much, and how you set those thresholds. There's a lot of work to be done by third parties here. The last piece I want to mention, we've gone over an hour, I think. Not my first time telling the story, in case you haven't gotten that. The last little piece I want to mention is we have this thing that's called mobile flows. And this is sort of unrelated to everything else. I'm just drawing it right here so that it's not like blocking my head. So mobile flows is another component of Workspace ONE on the back end. And with mobile flows, it's a service, it's a VM essentially, and you connect this. You write these connectors that plug into different like third-party apps. Anything with an API, you can write a connector for. The idea is this is probably mostly for web applications like SaaS type apps. We, in fact, at VMware have written a bunch of reference implementations of these connectors. So, pardon me, this is
like Concur.
Yeah, like all these big web apps, like Salesforce, Jira, ServiceNow, Workday, like these types of apps. You can actually go to our github.com/VMware, dig down there. You'll find these implementations, which you can take as is. You can use them as template. I mean, it's API to API, so you can write it in whatever language you want. But the idea is like, think about the good old days of the 90s. Users only had PCs. Their whole life was in that PC. We had SCCM and these types of tools. There was SMS in those days. We can see everything the user's doing. We can see if it's working, not working, what applications they're using, all this kind of stuff. Well, now that more and more applications are kind of going to the cloud and SaaS, they're becoming a bigger and bigger black box we can't really see into. So for example, sure, SCCM can tell me that I'm using Chrome.exe for 37 hours a week. Oh, okay, well, what are you doing? Maybe I can go one step further and see, they're on a website called salesforce.com for 26 of those hours. Again, what are they doing? And VMware actually solved this problem internally before mobile flows and before Workspace ONE. VMware actually spent some time building some custom applications. Like VMware built an application called vApprove that we use internally. And it took every application that has an approval, like Concur and Jira and Workday for like time off and raises and travel and all these things. We have like 10 different apps that required approval. They all had emails, and like yes, all these apps had mobile clients. But like, if I spend all day talking to you, I get back to my hotel, and I got a whole page of VMware apps. And they all have little red circles on them. I'm like, oh god, I just have to go through these ones one by one, just to approve, or deny, whatever. So we wrote an app called vApprove, using the native APIs, all these things that pulls together into its own standalone iOS and Android app that like all the employees ran around with. We had another application we wrote called People Search, which tied into our I think it's into Workday, where it's got like it ties into our directory and pulls up your face and your name and your like email address, phone number, that kind of stuff. But then I can click a button to see org chart that tied into Workday. I can see who you reported to, who else is on your team, and I can keep on going up and down the chain. I can see your office location. In that People Search, I could also search by customer, so I could type in like I don't know, what's the customer name? Spa, water, and see like who the account manager was for that, because it's going into Salesforce. I just have a product name like Mobile Flows and see who the product manager for that thing was. But that's going to like Jira and Workday and Web and all these things. I could actually click on to the office location. It would open up another app we wrote called vNavigator that, like in Palo Alto at our main campus, would show what building you're in, show the map on campus and what building it is. I could click on the building and then it'd show the CAD drawing of the floor and show where your actual cubicle was and use a GPS to walk you to that. I could also find conference rooms with it and like bathrooms, all these things, which you joke, like I've actually walked around up and down buildings and someone's like, can I help you? I'm like, where's the bathroom? Like I work here really. But we built these standalone applications. We kind of realized that it's not when you build a standalone application, now we have to write all these interfaces to connect into our authentication, this kind of stuff. So what we did is like, what if we could build these little applications on top of a more formalized framework, hopefully build upon all this kind of stuff. So that's where Mobile Flows comes in. Mobile Flows is a shipping product today. We are just scratching the surface of what's possible with this. I'm very, very excited about this type of stuff. And it's been shipping for a while. I never heard of it before I joined VMware a year ago, but it was shipping at that time, and I'm like, this is cool. And so Mobile Flows allows you to build those connectors into those third-party applications. And then we can expose it today in a couple ways. So on our email client, on a mobile device, we can actually pop up, we call it an action card. It'll render it right into the email itself. So you get that concur email, and it can be like approve or deny right within the email. Within our hub applications, which is like our sort of like app catalog, self-service, which there's native iOS, Android, web, for like if you didn't use this in the web portal.
Kind of the web interface for identity manager, right?
But it's sort of, that's kind of sort of what it was, but now there's local, like there's an iOS and Android native version, there's a Mac native version, Windows native version, so it sort of grew from that.
Right.
But that application has these mobile flows in it, so we can, like put a little alert in there that, oh, you've got these things, you can pull it down and there's yes, yes, no, yes, or whatever you render, you build the action cards to do kind of whatever you want. Ultimately, we see this going towards a full-on set of microservices that is based on the full power and context of the Workspace ONE platform. So you don't have to build your own like authentication engine and like figure out is the user
that's
where
over
it is.
there.
Yeah, if I want to tie mobile flow to a specific group, a specific user, any of this conditional access, like I want this mobile flow only to be for employees if they're on non-managed devices, whatever that's going to be, and you've got the power to build these things. And I don't love the name mobile flows because I want this to exist like on my desktop as well, and certainly we're rolling out to our desktop platforms as well.
Yeah.
But the idea is that if you look at applications, like an application like Concur, that's a full like web app, full page app. That some of my activities in Concur actually require that full app. If I'm booking travel, I need like the map and my calendar and like my full trip agenda and itinerary, and I need all that real estate and a minute to focus and like a keyboard and mouse to do that stuff. But if I have an employee and I'm just like approving an expense report, I don't need all of this. I just need like
an approve button.
Yes, no. Yeah, here's the amount, and then maybe a button to click and see details to do it later. So we're not. Mobile Flows is not taking all web applications and rewriting them for all mobile devices. It's just what micro actions, what micro activities can we pull out of the applications that users are using, and sort of repurpose and expose to them in ways that make more sense in the way they're working.
Wow.
While again, based on the full platform, the conditional access, that's going to tie into intelligence. So, now we can maybe start to use intelligence to start to suggest flows for users and suggest, we can look at, we know you have this trip coming up, because it's like we saw in Concur, you scheduled it. Do you want to change your time zone settings in Outlook for that week, so that it's like you're halfway around the world, so it moves your free busy time, so people aren't scheduling meetings at 2 in the afternoon now, but now you're in Australia, so they're middle of night. All these things you have to do manually to block calendar. Like the sky's the limit with what you can do with that sort of thing.
Wow.
And there's third parties too. Like Sappho was one, the Citrix bots.
Yeah.
Sappho, there's potential, but it wasn't catching on in a huge way because it was its own standalone thing. It's got to be integrated with the bigger, platform, because this is sort of doing all the dumb, boring, dirty work behind the scenes to enable these sorts of things to happen in ways that make a lot of sense for people. Huge partner opportunity here, by the way, because this is something that developers have to do. Like I'm not making a mobile flow. Like this is not for like systems engineers. But if you ride on top of this platform, there's a lot of sort of stuff you can do. So I guess I'll kind of stop talking now. I feel like I've been going for a very long time. This is the gist of like what we have built and what we're building with VMware Workspace ONE. This is sort of where we see EUC now and where you see the end user computing industry going. Like this is why I joined VMware. You see all this and I'm like, yes, please. This is awesome. And I spent time traveling around the world and talking about this. What's interesting about this is EUC.
Yeah.
So if someone is like, hey, that's awesome, one please, I'll take it. Like, it's a lot of work. Like this is probably like 10 different projects within a company. Each one of these could be its own kind of standalone project. It could take some months or potential years to do. No one's going to this overnight. They're going to figure out what is the, the easiest way to get started, and maybe you can use, Identity Manager can help you immediately. Maybe you can just drop the Workspace ONE agent on your Windows 10 environments, again, whether they're VDI or physical Windows 10, start collecting some of that, start to do some intelligence, start to roll up things into intelligence. And then just over time, you can sort of start to move, migrate, plug in. Take a look at Trust Network. Like I said, there's so many companies. Half the companies on the list, most people probably are like they're using those products already anyway. So you're paying for it. Like, let's hook it in on the back end and like let them be better at what they do.
Yeah.
We'll focus on what we do best. And with third parties, you know, Azure, AWS, Citrix, Microsoft, like, you know, we'll work with the third parties that make sense and let them do what they do best, and ultimately try to deliver a platform that's extensible and extendable and pluggable, and let's keep our customers happy.
Cool.
So that's Workspace ONE.
Awesome. Well, yeah, Brian, thanks so much for this lecture. Everything's perfectly clear now. It's quite clear what the future or the vision of VMware is on the whole modern management, because this goes beyond modern management. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Here is some contact details, and see you next time.
So long.